Hi, so today we're going to talk about mixing oranges, different shades of orange. Orange is called a secondary color because you get it by mixing two primary colors together. In this case, red and yellow. But you have to be careful when you're mixing oranges. So if you use like a red with a blue bias, and you mix it with the yellow, you're actually mixing all three primary colors together, so you'll end up with a muddy color. The same way if you use like a lemon yellow, which has a bit of a green bias. I'll show you on the palette, so you can see the green bias in the lemon yellow really easy. It's more of it leans towards green. So there's blue in it, which means if you mix it, the yellow and the blue with a red, you're going to get mud. So I'm going to show you how to mix clear, bright oranges and dark and dull oranges for different, for various things. And I always swatch out my mixes and write down what I've used in this. This is just a cheap watercolor book, but that's what I use, so I can go back and refer and see which color exactly I need for whatever painting I'm doing. So let's get started and talk about the mixes. So first we're going to mix a vivid orange. And the best way to mix a vivid orange would be to start with some cadmium yellow. I'm going to do cadmium yellow medium. And cadmium red. There it is. And this is also a cadmium red medium. And you can use, I'll show you in a minute, but you can use the lights as well to get a lighter version of this. And start with your yellow and add very tiny amounts of the cadmium red. So you start small, because if you pull in a lot of paint, you may get too much, and then it's really hard to go back, because yellow is the lightest color on the color wheel. You can see how orange that got with just a tiny bit of red. It's a beautiful orange color. So I'm going to swatch some out over here so you can see, make it bigger. So you can see, hopefully, on the screen, what a beautiful orange that is. And of course you can make it deeper by adding a little bit more red, or lighter by adding a little bit more yellow. You get the same basic thing by using the cadmium yellow light and the cadmium red light. So I'm going to wipe this off so we have a clean palette knife. You should always wipe your palette knife off in between so you don't contaminate the other colors. So a little bit of yellow and a tiny bit of the red. I don't know if you can see, but I don't know if you can see in this light, but it's a very tiny bit of red to start with, because red is a very intense color and yellow is a very light color. So I need to add a little bit more red. Again, little bits at a time. So it's a lighter orange. Now I could, I guess, keep adding to it. Probably too much there. So now we have a different orange. Same tone, just a bit lighter. As you can see the difference between the two. They make nice different shades of fall foliage. So next we're going to make a dull orange. So in order to make it dull, you would add the opposite color on the color wheel. So our orange is here, the opposite color is blue. So to make it a little duller, you want to add a red with a little bit of a blue bias, or a yellow with a little bit of a blue-green bias. So for this demonstration, I'm going to use yellow ochre. I have to get my opener. So yellow ochre is a bit of a duller yellow, a more earthy tone. You can see it's almost a beige color. So we're going to use a little bit of Alizarin Crimson. Oops. There we go. I tend to put too much paint on my palette, I think. So let's wipe off our palette knife. And we'll pull some yellow ochre and again a tiny touch of red. Now, since yellow ochre is a deeper yellow, we're probably going to need more red than we needed for these. But again, I would still go slow. My right hand isn't working today either, apparently. Usually it's just the left I have trouble with, but I guess everything progresses. So, oh my. So we're getting there. It's deepening, but not as much as I would like. So we're going to add a little bit more. There we go. Oh, it's a deeper, darker, muted, oops, I got paint on that, muted orange color. I really am having trouble with this hand today, I'm sorry. And there. So you can see how much darker that is. I think oranges and yellows are really hard to change the tone or the tint or the shade without going too far with it. So it takes a bit of practice, and it's the same with any color mixing. You have to practice, and you have to also remember what I'm mixing here. If you have a different brand of paint, you may have a slightly different result, because all brands use different varying amounts of pigments in their brands. So if you wanted to make a paint mix for, like, say, gold jewelry, if you were doing a painting with gold jewelry on it, you would want to mix a bit of cadmium yellow light. I'm going to show you a few different mixes for different common things that you might want to paint. So a bit of cadmium yellow light, and this time we're going to use burnt sienna instead of the red. Burnt sienna is kind of an earthy, you can see, a brownish red. So an earthy red, I guess you would call it, but a very useful color for a lot of color mixes. And to this, we're going to also add a little bit of white. And like a lot of people would just grab all three and mix them in together. I found that that doesn't always give you the result you want. So I like to start with the yellow and then add a little bit less of the burnt sienna until you get it close to an orangey color. And the reason for the white is, well, first to increase the opacity, and second to kind of tone it down so you don't have it like a garish yellow. Because if I were to swatch out this as is right now, it's more of a yellow, more of that. It's not really what I want, is what I'm trying to say. So you can see it's kind of it's not the gold color I want. So we're going to add a tiny bit of white. And this brightens it up and brings it closer to gold jewelry. Now you can keep adding the burnt umber and a little bit more white until you get it exactly where you want it. I don't know how true the color is on the screen here. So if I were to add a little bit more burnt sienna, I'm running out of paint there. Now I've got a deeper tone and a tiny bit more white. And we'll swatch that and I'll show you. Whoops. Bring it up close so you can see. So that was our original, and that's with a little bit of white. That's with a little bit more burnt sienna. So you can get various different shades of the gold jewelry that you want. You can also mix really good copper using the burnt sienna. This time we're going to use some cadmium red. Since I got most of this, I'm going to use cadmium yellow light and a touch of cadmium red to make our orange. And now we're going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to this. Tiny bit, to give us a more coppery color. Probably a little bit more. And we'll swatch that out. So that's kind of a light copper color. So if you want it deeper, of course, you would add a little bit more burnt sienna. And if you want to see all these paints like actually swatched out on a close-up piece of paper, I do have a blog post that I will link in the description, and it does have a color chart that you can print out if you want to have it for reference, or just save it to your computer. And you can keep going until you get the deep color that you want or the light color that you want. You can also add a little bit more yellow to make it more a golden bronze color, I guess you would call it. I don't want this video to go on too long because that gets boring, but if you want to make if you're painting fire, fire is always, because there's many different colors within the fire, it's not just red or orange blazing fire. So we're going to start with, the best way to make fire is to do the cadmium yellow and the cadmium red, and for this I'm using the cadmium yellow medium. Yeah. So cadmium yellow with a bit of cadmium red. You can already see I use a little bit more cadmium red in this one than I did to make the orange, right? So it's already deeper, and I'll swatch that out so you can see. But you see how bright and deep that is. But to give it like this fiery tone, we're going to use burnt umber. Burnt umber is a brown. Different than the burnt sienna. This is a much deeper brown. Yeah, wipe off my knife a tiny bit again of the brown. I probably used too much brown, but you can see you can see it better on the palette knife. And you see how it changed the tone of the paint. So I'm going to add a bit more yellow. So a bit more yellow. And a bit more of our cadmium red. Now we've got a different fiery tone again. So you can use any of these within your fire, and of course a nice bright yellow in the middle. And if you don't like that, you want to tone down a little bit more, just add the tiny touch of brown. People often ask me why I bother doing this when I shake so much, and of course it's progressing as time goes on, and the reason is I want to show everyone that you can do it. Don't accept your limitations. You have to find ways around it and keep going. Just like mixing paint. Keep going till you get it right. And then it changes and you have to modify everything again. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do it, because there's a way. And there, you can keep going and adding, I find adding a bit more brown to this will give you the color you need for like the dying embers of a fire, or you can leave it as bright as you want. I also wanted to show you why you shouldn't use, or I shouldn't say shouldn't, but why you won't get a nice bright red or nice bright orange if you use like this lemon yellow with the blue bias in it. So this is the lemon yellow, and it has a blue bias. So we're going to add a tiny touch of cadmium red, probably too much. Now we've got our orange, but it's a duller orange, and I'm going to put it up here next to this one. I don't know if you can see that on the video. It's not showing up as duller, but it is much duller. And you'll see that even more as it dries, because acrylic paints tend to dry darker, right? And the thing with this lemon yellow, if you want to get a deeper orange with it and you keep adding more red, it's only going to get duller. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, there are hundreds of more mixes of orange that you can get. And don't forget to swatch them out in the book so you remember how you made them for future reference. And I hope you enjoyed this color mixing class. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video.